The WWE Hall of Fame is a time when we can all celebrate success. But not all success necessarily leads to greatness and induction into the Halls of the Fame. This is a list of wrestlers currently not included in the WWE Hall of Fame of 2025, January. Let's get in. When we start with the list, we're going to start with the Beast from the East, Bam Bam Bigelow. ECW World Heavyweight Champion, ECW World Television Champion, IWGP Tag Team Champions, World WCW Tag Team Champions are some of the accolades of the big man. One of the biggest omissions from the Hall of Fame, while he won nothing in the WWE, he was a main event of WrestleMania 11 along with NFL Hall of Famer Lawrence Taylor. Outside of this, Bigelow was a household name, earning his recognition and was one of the most athletic super heavyweights of his time. One of the first many big men to successfully perform one of the most beautiful moonsaults the business has ever seen. Surely, Bam Bam Bigelow could get an induction. Along with him, why not his manager, Luna Vachon? Luna, not only managing the Beast from the East in the WWE days, went on to manage Goldust. Also, being a competitor in the ring herself and competing in an era when the World Wrestling Federation was shorter on talent of the women's division and kind of held it as it was going through its growth period. Up next, speaking of growth period, a lot of growth in the career of William Regal. Regal's accolades and achievements include an Intercontinental Champion, European Champion, World Tag Team Champion, Hardcore Champion, a 2008 King of the Ring, and a WCW World Television Champion. Regal putting a lot of work into his career in WCW before coming to the WWE, and then appearing as the Man's Man, initially under a gimmick in late 2000. Regal then became commissioner, which was very memorable moments of the WWE. Since retiring from the ring, he's helped with the revivals of NXT, serving as general manager for a while, and then briefly on to AEW, and then briefly back to the company, even helping the tutelage of his son, who is currently a competitor in the WWE development system. His induction would be great with stories, and he's done a lot for people in the business and helped in front and behind the scenes of the WWE. Surely 2025 will be his year. And speaking of the year, it's not the year of Y2J, Chris Jericho, but it is a year in which Y2J, or Chris Jericho himself, could be inducted into the Hall of Fame. I think the career sets for itself. A WWE champion, an Intercontinental champion, United States champion, European champion, Hardcore champion, World Tag Team champion, all under the WWE umbrella, World Television champion, Cruiserweight champion under WCW, and an IWGP champion. Chris Jericho also became a ECW World Television champion and an AEW World champion in that promotion, and helping with the startup of WWE's major competition to this day. Y2J, from Lionheart Chris Jericho, the days of ECW, all the way to WCW. Who can forget his feud with Goldberg, his comedic relief, the list. One list he's not made is the WWE Hall of Famer, but I feel Chris would make a great addition. He is still friendly with the WWE, and a few years ago, AEW did allow him to go on to WWE Stone Cold Steve Austin's podcast. And he just kept brief about AEW. He did stay focused on WWE, showing that he has a working relationship in the business. And we know that Chris Jericho is a Hall of Famer in the making. Speaking of in the making, we got the making of the big man Batista now. This may have the Mandela effect for you guys, and where you maybe thought that you remember Batista being inducted. He was originally supposed to be inducted in the year of 2020, but that ultimately ended up being the COVID-19 class of the WWE, and Batista opted to go towards other commitments and not be the headliner for this class. Batista's accolades include a WWE World Champion, a World Heavyweight Champion, a World Tag Team Champion with Rey Mysterio, and also the Royal Rumble winner of 2005 and 2014. The big man Batista started his career out and eventually exploded onto the scene as he turned on Triple H in Evolution. The big man went on to Hollywood to extend the WWE branch all the way into making movies of Guardian of the Galaxy, among others. Surely the WWE Entertainment would like to entertain the idea of Batista in a Hall of Fame induction. And speaking of a big induction, we've got The Big Show. The Big Show, another WWE WCW legend, known as the Giant. In his first match ever in wrestling in WCW, he became World Heavyweight Champion, defeating the mighty immortal Hulk Hogan. He's a WWE Champion, a WCW Heavyweight Champion, an ECW World Champion where he became the Extreme Giant, a United States Champion, an Intercontinental Champion, a World Tag Team Champion, and a 2015 Andre the Giant Memorial winner. There's no doubt that Paul White has a place in the Hall of Fame. Jumping in the middle of the Monday Night Wars from WCW to WWE, launching and keeping his career even further. He's even working behind the scenes in AEW, helping out with dark matches and elevating talent to this day. Who can forget the comedic relief as Shokishi, among many other moments, even Adam Sandler's Waterboy as Captain Insano. And speaking of Insano, is it insane that there's not a solo induction for China in the World Wrestling Entertainment Hall of Fame? We did get China with D-Generation X being inducted as a group, and I can see why they did it, mostly because of how she left the company and everything that followed. She was a trailblazer, though. She changed women's wrestling on her own. She was more than the D-Generation X. China did so much for women's wrestling, as she was the first woman to enter the Royal Rumble, and she was also the first one to win the Intercontinental Championship. She made things possible and even elevated Eddie Guerrero in the Latino Heat storyline. Even though the story was tragic to end, her career deserved to be honored in its own right. WWE has an opportunity to someday do this. And speaking of opportunities, here comes the Axe and here comes the Smasher. Here comes a tag team that's not in the Hall of Fame. It's a disaster. WWF World Tag Team Champions. Demolition was the longest reigning tag team champions in WWF WWE history. There's no logical reason why not to include them in the Hall of Fame. However, this could be due to not WWE's decision, but Demolition's decision themselves, mainly with Axe and how he left the company. When the New Day approached their record and beating it finally with Demolition, the WWE didn't mind mentioning Demolition. However, there's something that just doesn't seem right about them not being in the WWE. WWE has ultimately moved on from the memory of Axe and Smash. I propose that even Axe, Smash, and Crush could be entered as a trio in the WWE Hall of Fame. But it does take two parties to agree on the opportunity and how it's going to work, and maybe it's not the WWE's reason for why Axe and Smash have not made it into the Hall of Fame. And speaking of other tag teams in the Hall of Fame, we've got the Barbarian and Ming, or Haku as you know them in the WWF, the Faces of Fear, could be inducted as a tag team, but not just it. Ming had quite a career himself. Not just a WWF Tag Team Champion, a WCW Hardcore Champion, a WWC Puerto Rico Heavyweight Champion. Haku, aka Ming, is known for being one of the most legit tough guys in the business. Even Andre the Giant wouldn't mess with him, and we know how much Andre liked to mess with people. Speaking of which, Andre respected him so much he became tag team partners with him and tag team champions together as the Colossal Connection, ultimately playing into the business. Haku also is the proud father of current WWE talent Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa of the Bloodline. And speaking of the Bloodline, we're going to get into a little further into an aftershock of that event, we got the achievements of the WWF Tag Team Champion, SWS Tag Team Champion, Pro Wrestling Illustrated Most Hated Wrestlers of the Year. But another who passed away 2 years, John Tenta, aka Earthquake, became a household name as one of Hulk Hogan's biggest rivals, while Typhoon was Tugboat Thomas, and a WWE legendary in his right, ultimately forming the tag team, the Natural Disasters, Typhoon and Earthquake, under the guide of Jimmy Hart, was one of the biggest tag teams of that era. Could be unlikely to happen, but we could get a possible honorary induction into the Hall of Fame. And speaking of Hall of Fame inductions, we've got another induction for the Pro Wrestling Manager of the Year for 1985, 1993, and 1995. He is a 2005 NWA Hall of Famer, but ultimately Jim Cornette has always been a controversial character with his tennis racket in hand, which made him an exceptional manager for many wrestling's greatest. You can find his amazing list of clients. Jim Cornette talks on his podcast all the time, the Corny Drive-Thru, but also we look at the Rock and Roll Express. We look at the Midnight Express. We look at a whole slew of NWA talents he's guided through, even looking and working in other promotions outside of WWE, WWF. And speaking of which, one of his tag teams could be NWA World Tag Team Champions and NWA United States Tag Team Champions. We could see an induction of Cornette. If he can get inducted, maybe not solo, he could get the Midnight Express inducted into the Hall of Fame, and he could be the manager induction with them. We could have some great feuds, some great NWA moments in partnership with the WWE to honor all the years past. And speaking of years past, there was no man that had a biggest impact on the WWE business. No, I'm not talking about Hornswoggle. I will be talking about his father, Fit Finlay. Finlay not only wrestling, he was a United States champion, a WCW World Tag Team Champion, a British Heavyweight Champion, a British Light Heavyweight Champion, CWA World Middleweight Champion, and an ASW British Heavyweight Champion. Without a doubt, Finlay definitely has deserved a spot. But not only that, not only his entertainment, not only his wrestling style, Fit Finlay is many times credited by multiple WWE divas for being the guy behind the scenes that made the Divas division grow and achieve to what it is today. Fit Finlay is the wind beneath the wings of the WWE Women's Division. Fit Finlay deserves his addles and time in the Hall of Fame. And speaking of time, has enough time passed for Owen Hart to be inducted into the Hall of Fame? Enough is enough, and it's time for a change. His achievements would include the WWF Intercontinental Champion, European Champion, Tag Team Champion, King of the Ring 1994, USWA Unified World Heavyweight Champion, IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, Stampede North American Heavyweight Champion. Martha Hart actually owns all the rights to Owen Hart's likeliness, and other than releasing video footage, there's no way the WWE can induct Owen without her approval. AEW is introducing the Owen Hart Cup, as they have years ago, because Tony Khan wanted to give him a proper send-away. As long as Martha owns Owen's rights, Owen's children could someday inherit those rights. However, right now, highly unlikely for Owen to be honored in the Hall of Fame anytime soon. But that could change many years from now. The two-time Slammy award-winning, best entertaining, locker room loving Owen Hart could make his way into the Hall of Fame with brother Brett eventually. And speaking of brothers, the brother of Cody Rhodes, the son of a plumber, Gold Dust, Dustin Rhodes. Many achievements for the Golden One. WWF Intercontinental Champion, Hardcore Champion, Tag Team Champion, United States Heavyweight Champion, World Tag Team Champion, NWA Tag Team Champion. No one was more bizarre than Gold Dust. Dustin Rhodes broke barriers by creating a character so outlandish. It rivaled Adrian Adonis. There's so much to say about Goldust. He gave us the first ever Hollywood backlot brawl with WWE Hall of Famer Roddy Piper. The attire, the entrance, the quoting of movies, Goldust changed the time and the periods. And then he went on to honor the Rhodes name throughout the industry. He even gave us the birth of Stardust. And speaking of birth, we've got a former WWF World Heavyweight Champion, NWA Mid-Atlantic Champion, Mid-Atlantic Television Champion, NW Television Champion, NW World Tag Team Champion, and Florida Tag Team Champion, Ivan Koloff. He was the champion. And it's remember, Ivan Koloff was the man that broke Bruno Sammartino's 7+ title reign. And he moved the title from Sammartino, giving up and breaking the streak, making him a made man. He had the feuds with Pedro Morales. Ivan Koloff played the foreign villain to perfection. Yet his career wasn't just about that. In Mid-Atlantic, in the Jim Crockett Promotions, he often worked in a stable with Nikita Koloff and Crusher Khrushchev as one of the most hated heel tag teams in the business. Like Demolition, it's possible that the WWE will remember him on a part due to a lawsuit that happened after his departure. But we still believe here at Tap Out Talk that Ivan Koloff deserves his spot in the Hall of Fame. And Hall of Fame can expand from the WWE into the UFC since TKO Endeavors bought the company. But let's not forget, Dan the Beast Severn was a wrestling champion while also going into the UFC in its very inaugural days, essentially launching the company. In professional wrestling, Severn is a 2-time world champion by winning the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship twice, and his first reign lasting for over 4 years, an WWE Hall of Fame member. During his almost year-long tenure with the World Wrestling Federation, he also was managed by Jim Cornette. Dan Severn also was one of the few times where wrestlers showed up in pro sports such as the UFC and carried his pro wrestling championships proudly, while also holding the UFC Ultimate Fighter Championships. Dan Severn was a trailblazer in his own way, going and getting exposure to the wrestling world outside of the standard WWF days. And speaking of doing that, UFC champion Ken Shamrock made his way to the WWE after infamous fame in the Octagon. The NWA World Heavyweight Champion, WWF Intercontinental Champion, Tag Team Champion, King of the Ring 1998, Impact Hall of Fame 2020, MMA record of 28 wins, 17 losses, UFC Super Fight Champion, and UFC Hall of Fame. If one Hall of Fame does well, another should just be added to the accolades for Ken Shamrock. The WWE somewhat has buried Ken Shamrock. You know, the actual term buried, but not mentioning him in any form. Shamrock has also talked about it several times, and he's confused by the WWE forgetting that he exists. The Rock didn't forget. He also showed up recording to induct him in the Impact Hall of Fame at Bound for Glory 2020. Neither did Bret Hart or Mick Foley, also appearing by recording. Ken Shamrock did pretty well in the WWE days. Sure, he never became WWE champion, but he had a couple other titles to run along. Who can forget? Even introducing his little sister in kayfabe storyline, Ryan Shamrock, adding characters to a character. Critics praised him for the feud with The Rock and it helped get the People's Champion over, but who could forget other things such as the Lion Dens match and all the other fun stuff. Ultimately, with TKO now owning the WWE, this is an opportunity to honor Ken Shamrock once again. And speaking of honoring, this next induction that could not occur or could occur is 2-time world champion Chris Benoit. Having reigned as a 1-time WCW heavyweight champion and a 1-time world heavyweight champion in WWE, he was booked to win a 3rd world championship on the night of his death. And while the events of his death are tragic in nature and shocked the wrestling world, and it came to a standstill, the in-ring work of Chris Benoit will always remembered as stellar. Not necessarily out of the ring, but in the ring, He did entertain. He was intense. In Hall of Fame worthy wrestling. Up next, speaking of Hall of Fame worthy, WCW World Heavyweight Champion, World Television Champion, WCW United States Champion, and World Tag Team Champion, and Royal Rumble winner in 1994. In the only event where it was a tie with Bret Hart, Lex Luger was a top name of the industry. The WWE wanted him to be the next Hulk Hogan. However, his career and life would forever be linked to some tragic events that played in a role ultimately in the death of the lovely First Lady of Wrestling, Miss Elizabeth. Luger clearly regrets it and is very appreciative for every day he has on Earth. Luger's career at one point, even back to WCW, hit a peak in NWO storylines, even joining other members. Ultimately, maybe not likely, but Lex Luger could someday be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. And as I previously mentioned, the First Lady of Wrestling, her achievements. Macho Man Randy Savage, behind every good man is a great woman. This one ultimately ending in tragedy, but Elizabeth could very well be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame and much deserved as the First Lady of Wrestling. The match made in heaven match at SummerSlam where they played their role perfectly, getting married. I could see the WWE allowing an induction honoring Miss Elizabeth. The ruler of the world, Sid Justice, Psycho Sid, Sid Vicious, whatever you want to call him. Call him a WWF champion, a WCW World Heavyweight Champion, United States Champion, Unified USWA Heavyweight Champion, and USWA Texas Heavyweight Champion. Sid is another big man who the WWE has not mentioned since leaving, other than his recent passing in 2024. After going to WCW, backstage producers encouraged him to do more moves, which he was reluctant to do, try to add it to his game. In a Four Corners match with the WCW World title, he suffered a career-ending injury performing a drop kick from the top rope. His leg fractured so badly, it was too graphic to be re-aired on pay-per-view. Doctors said that he would never run again. Sid tried to sue WCW for encouraging him, but the WWE bought the company. It took 3.5 years for Sid to finally be rehabbed and his leg be long enough to rehab. WWE did not ask for him to return in 2012 when he defeated Heath Slater in what was the last match on global television. Sid is a very, very huge character that could be honored in the WWE Hall of Fame and rule the world. Speaking of rule, I want to say thank you guys for ruling the world of wrestling. You're the best part of the IWC. You can follow me on Twitter at @TheBryanAdkins. Check us out on the fansofprowrestling.com. Hit that like button. It greatly helps us all out and allows us to enjoy wrestling. Speaking of enjoying wrestling, nobody can enjoy wrestling than the 16-time World Heavyweight Champion, John Cena. Also a World Heavyweight Champion, a WWE Champion, United States Champion, Tag Team Champion, a Money in the Bank winner, Royal Rumble winner of 2008 and 2013, and the Doctor of Thugonomics, exploding onto the scene in a time where the WWE didn't know who their next big thing would be. They didn't know what direction they wanted to take. Vince McMahon was said, according to legend, to give a very courageous speech in the locker room about somebody standing up and taking the brass ring and leading the company. And some kid raised his hand and said, "I'm ready to do it." Vince apparently didn't even know who he was, and that was a young prototype, John Cena. John Cena made his debut against Kurt Angle and then eventually evolved into the Thugonomics character, starting his career as a heel and then quickly going to a face. John Cena became the modern day Hulk Hogan. And what I mean by that is he became the guy that created kids as fans and allowed them to extend the business and grow. For us, it was the Hulkamaniacs when we were younger, but now it's the John Cena never give up fans. Also, John Cena has made on record the most Make-A-Wish wishes in the history of any celebrity. But his work is not done, and in 2025, John Cena will be back on the road for one more year one more time, because he'll never give up trying to become a 17-time world champion. And we'll find out in 2025 if John Cena is able to get that job done. But John Cena, most likely, with or without that, will be a WWE Hall of Fame induction. And speaking of Hall of Fame, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, not only a legacy in the business, but also a WWE champion, WCW champion, WWF Intercontinental Champion, WWF Tag Team Champion, Royal Rumble 2000, USWA Tag Team Champion, the People's Champion, would be a massive induction for the WWE and on the board of directors. More for the WWE overall. We all know it's going to happen eventually, but it'll be on his terms, much like in much of his career, and trying to bounce out Hollywood wrestler and Hall of Famer someday. I believe next year would be a perfect year to induct The Rock into the Hall of Fame. The WWE could express their gratitude to The Rock, the family, and extend throughout the bloodline. The Rock will be involved in the WWE for a very long time and extend his programming in his life with a Hall of Fame induction someday. And speaking of Hall of Fame inductions, in 2025 we will get the Hall of Fame induction of Triple H. Paul Levesque. Triple H changed the game. One of the best heels in the business through the WWE Attitude Era all up to the modern day. But his work didn't stop just there. He's a WWE champion, World Heavyweight Champion, Intercontinental Champion, European Champion, Tag Team Champion of the World, King of the Ring 97, Royal Rumble 2002, and 2016 champion. Not only that, ultimately, great main event caliber matches with The Undertaker, among many others at WrestleMania. Also, Triple H's legacy lives on in the WWE. In his work with NXT, where he proved that he had a mind for producing, and he proved that he lived the business and changed the game and developed so many of the stars that you enjoy in the main roster today. And now, as the face of the WWE, Triple H will be inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2025, and we will enjoy his work. But as of this time, he is not inducted as of this recording, so that's why he was originally on this list, a list that'll soon be corrected. And our final induction could be the most controversial one on the list. Potentially a McMahon in the Hall of Fame. You got Vince McMahon Sr., Vince McMahon Jr., you've got Stephanie McMahon and Shane McMahon. Now, while some may argue that Vince McMahon will never be in the WWE Hall of Fame, I tend to disagree. I feel inducting the McMahon family in the Hall of Fame would be the right way to go to honor the legacy of wrestling. The McMahons in the WWE Hall of Fame. Shane McMahon is a WWF European Champion, Hardcore Champion, SmackDown Tag Champion, and some of the most daredevil risks that I will remember in my wrestling fan career. I think it's obvious that anyone could call McMahon a Hall of Famer. Shane has so many career highlights. Also, who could forget his match with Kurt Angle at King of the Ring? If you ever get a chance to watch the commentary on that, it's amazing work to hear his thoughts while going through it. We've got Vince McMahon was a WWF champion, ECW World Champion, Royal Rumble 1999 winner, and he's got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 2008. They always said Vince would not book himself into the Hall of Fame, but maybe we could get the family overall being honored. Ultimately, Vince McMahon was the one that expanded the territories and created the WWE from scratch in what it was today and took it to the next level. And who can also forget about his father, Vince Sr., who originally, started out the Hall of Fame and started out the WWF days prior to the territories. And Stephanie McMahon, the billion-dollar princess herself. Stephanie definitely has had a career to her own. She has actually been involved with the WWF longer than some might realize. There are issues of WWF magazine in which Stephanie was a young teen posing wearing merchandise, trying to help her parents and their company. She also cites spending a lot of the days sitting in the lobby of the WWE while her mom and dad were working late nights. So she's been in the WWF, and the WWE brand has been in Stephanie's blood for as long as she can live and long as she can remember. And at the end of the day, we've always appreciated her work and what she's done. And an avenue the WWF even created where she met her husband and had a wonderful family. So the McMahon family overall legacy could be entered into a Hall of Fame in one big swoop as the McMahon induction. Speeches, we could see who ultimately would induct the family and who would be honored to accept the award. But those are all of our lists. Let's get into our final thoughts on this. The WWE Hall of Fame has been around for many years. It's had its accolades. We celebrate their successes. We reflect on their careers, and we remember all the good times that these superstars have given us in wrestling. And I know each of you guys, if you're listening, I know that you guys have felt a connection with the Hall of Fame members at one point in your fandom. But also, who did we miss out on this? Are there others on the list that aren't here? Let me know in the comments down below who else you feel deserves a WWE Hall of Fame induction. But for now, I'm going to enjoy some WrestleMania season. I'm out.